to her, he said, watch this, the key to experiencing the miracle that you want is to start a business. Y'all remember that? She said, I got oil. He said, well, take the oil and go borrow vessels. And I wanted to continue that thought today, but the Lord didn't let me. He said, go borrow vessels and then start to pour. And then take what you have amassed and sell it. So we talked about identifying, first of all, whatever your gift is or your ability. Now I'm going to talk about that. Somebody say ability. Or your ability to do what God has created you to do within the context of your assignment. He said, identify that. Identify it. So I hope y'all have been taking periods of introspection, self-examination, and discovering and unearthing the gifts of God that are in you. And I wanted to continue on that, but the Lord took me another way, and I didn't understand why until I walked in and heard the praises of God. Deuteronomy 8, and I'm just going to read one verse that is going to properly frame the context of our discussion today. 3 verses, I'm sorry, but I'll start at verse number 18. And you shall remember, Deuteronomy 8, verse number 18. And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant which he swore to your fathers as it is this day. I'll read the other 2 verses, but really verse 18 is the text. Then it shall be, if you by any means forget the Lord your God and follow other gods and serve them and worship them, I testify against you this day that you shall surely perish. As the nations which the Lord destroys before you, so you shall perish, because you would not be obedient to the voice of the Lord your God. The topic of our discussion today can be found in verse number 18. In the A portion of verse 18, where it says, and you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power. Somebody shout power to get wealth. That's what we're going to talk about today. Power to get wealth. Tell somebody, you got the power. You may be seated. Good morning, family. Israel, the chosen people of God, have been in the wilderness for 39 years. And as you well know, an entire generation has died off after having been delivered by God out of 430 years of bondage. Their deliverance happened in response to their complaints about their maltreatment and mistreatment while they were under the oppressive regime of Pharaoh. Remember what God says to Moses in the earlier portion of the Exodus. He says, Moses, I have seen the affliction of my people, and I have heard their cry, and I have come down to deliver them. This most certainly is a monumental occasion and occurrence in the Old Testament, for it is only the second time within recorded history of the Bible that God himself comes and invades the earth. The first time, of course, was in Genesis chapter 11, when Nimrod had commissioned and led the building of a tower that stretched from earth to heaven. And it got God's attention, and God said, I will go down and confuse the languages. This is the second time that God said, Moses, I am come down to deliver them. Came down in response to something that was a detriment to my people. I came down in response to free them from the drudgeries of bondage in a land that was not their own. I came in response and their visual or their visible affliction got my attention. I came down to put a stop, not just a temporary interruption, but I came down to put a total halt to the abuse of my people. Are you listening to me? The way that God chooses to deliver them is very interesting, though, because what God does is he chooses to totally destroy, devastate, and dismantle the system in which they supplied service for their oppressors, all while suffering the pain of poverty while the oppressors enjoyed the pleasures of success. Let me say that again. The way that God chose to deliver them was not to immediately snatch them out, but God chose, somebody ought to shout, God chose. He chose to deliver them by totally destroying, devastating, and dismantling the system in which they supplied service for their oppressors, all while suffering the pain of poverty while the oppressors enjoyed the pleasures of success. He destroyed an entire system that held the people captive and in slavery. Watch this. While leaving them in, but protecting them from the very thing that brought destruction to the place where they were. If you have not gathered where I'm about to go now, let me just make it real plain for you. In this present day, as we stand on August 6, 2017, the White House is in total disarray. Everything that we see points to the fact that everything in our government is falling apart. Please understand that it is the government that for over 400 years has kept you and your people under the iron thumb of oppression. It is the same system, somebody ought to shout, the same system. The same system that regards you as a second-class citizen. The same system, somebody ought to shout, the same system that says to you that no matter how good you are, that the melanin in your skin automatically disqualifies you from some things. I wish I had a witness in here that you are otherwise qualified for. It is the same system, somebody ought to shout, the same system. The same system that used you to build the infrastructure of this nation, but will not allow you to enjoy the pleasantries of living in the land of the free. It is the same system, somebody ought to shout, the same system. The same system that forced your forefathers and your foremothers to pick cotton, then, unbeknownst to you, slid something into you by way of the Civil War that made it look like you were free from slavery, but really just hired you out and caused you, watch this, to be committed to a life of sharecropping in order to survive. Somebody ought to shout, the same system. That's what he said. He said, I'm coming through to dismantle a system that I'm not going to take you out of. You'll be in it, but what I'm trying to get you to understand is just because you're in it, it does not mean you have to be of it. I will destroy it, but I'll save you if you will just trust me. Somebody touch your neighbor and say, you ought to trust God. To be sure, then, my brothers and my sisters, the setting and the scenario of our text is of monumental significance to a people who have a promise from God. As I said to you earlier, this marks the transition from 39 years of circuitous trekking on the sandy terrains of the wilderness that God used, watch this, to psychologically repair and then prepare them for partnership with him in the acquisition and subsequent dominion in the land that he promised 6 generations of their foreparents. While they were in the wilderness, it was not insignificant. While they were in the wilderness, God had a plan. While they were in the wilderness, the purposes of God were playing out. God said, the first thing I have to do is I have to psychologically repair you because your psyche has been broken. Your mentality has been maimed and mangled. The way you think is not the way that I want you to think. So I have to allow you, first of all, to go through something, watch this, to prepare the generational dysfunction of your thinking. Because you inherited some mindsets from the people who reared you that are counterproductive to your advancement. And so I'm using this wilderness to prepare. Somebody ought to shout, repair. I'm using it to repair what was broken. You have been disconnected from my original plan for you. Your mindset is not one of dominion and authority. Your mindset is one of servitude and servility. And I have chosen you by virtue of Father Abraham to be the head and not the tail, above only and not beneath, to be lenders to nations and not borrowers. Touch your neighbor and say, neighbor, God is repairing me, and he's repairing you too. Some things have happened to your mind. Some things have happened to your psyche. Some things have happened to you in your past that have just torn you down. But is there anybody in here besides me who can say like the old folk that the God we serve is a heart fixer and a mind regulator? Am I talking to anybody in here? I really didn't come to preach. I just wanted to talk. But when I think about the fact that no matter what has been set in place by way of the social constructs of America, no matter what has been set in place by the institution of slavery, no matter what has been set in place by the oppressors of my people, the God that I serve can still fix my heart and regulate my mind. Somebody shout, yes, Lord. He said the first thing I got to do is I got to repair your mind. And he says, I'm repairing your mind to prepare your mind for something that I have in store for you. Somebody ought to shout, yes, Lord. I'm going to prepare you for partnership with me in the acquisition of a subsequent dominion in the land that I promised. Six generations of people who came before you. Oh, Lord, I wish I hadn't seen that because it's taking me off course. But if you can just get your mind, if I can just get my mind, if we can just get our minds right, the things that those who came before us were not able to enjoy, we will live not only off of what God has promised us, but watch this, reparations of things from the past. And I'm not talking about reparations from the government. Y'all can keep your 40 acres and a mule. Oh, God. I'm talking about reparations from the God of all creation, who will do exceedingly abundantly above all that I could ever ask or think. I'm talking about reparations from God Almighty, who is El Elyon, possessor of the heaven and earth. Why in the world should I settle for 40 acres and a mule when my Father owns the cattle of 1,000 hills? Somebody shout, yes, Lord. He says this wilderness I'm using is to prepare, repair, and then prepare your mind to get you ready for what I've promised. Well, my brothers and my sisters, I know the wilderness is not really in a good place. Many of us don't like the wilderness. Many of us dread the wilderness. Many of us who are in a wilderness right now don't like the way that it feels. But I want to suggest to you that there were three things that came out of their wilderness experience that were good and profitable. And the first thing that came out of the wilderness experience was they developed a dependence upon God. So that while they were in the wilderness, while They were in the in-between place. Watch this. They had been broken from their dependence upon the system of oppression that sustained them. And now, watch this, they have to depend on God to sustain them. Watch this, while they're in the wilderness and for however long they were in the wilderness. God, watch this, had only intended them, Sasha, to be in the wilderness for at least or at most 11 days. An 11-day trek turned into a 40-year merry-go-round. But as long as they were in the wilderness, God was supplying their need. They had to depend on God for manna. They had to depend on God for water. They had to depend on God for an occasional influx of quail. But whatever they had while they were in the wilderness, where God was repairing and preparing them, they had to depend on God to get it. Now, I don't know who I'm talking to in here, but is there anybody in here who knows what it's like to be in seasons of your life that all you got to depend on is God? All right, don't fool me now. But is there anybody besides me who knows what it's like to survive on God and God alone? Is there anybody in here who knows what it's like for the bottom to fall out and everything to fall apart, but somehow in some way God just keeps on keeping you? Who am I talking to in here who has the testimony that I survived on God and God alone? Lost money but still got God. Lost friends but still got God. Almost lost my mind but I still got God. Somebody throw your head back and shout, I still got God. First thing was they developed a dependence upon God. Second thing, watch this, Minister Tile. Second thing, good thing that happened in the wilderness experience was they developed a self-benefiting work ethic. Self-benefiting work ethic. Watch this. After God said, I'm going to supply manna and I'm going to supply water and an occasional influx of quail, he said, watch this, I'm going to supply it for you, but you're going to have to go gather it for yourself. Now, this might not mean anything to anybody in here, but remember what I told y'all earlier in the introduction, Rosa. In the introduction, I told y'all that they were working to make somebody else rich, so that everything that they got in Egypt, they didn't get it for themselves. They were trading, I wish I had a witness, they were trading all of their hard work for fish and onions and watermelons. They were not succeeding, they were just surviving. But God said, I brought you into this wilderness and I'm bringing you through it to teach you that if you depend on me and develop a work ethic, it will benefit you in the long run, so that whatever you get is going to be yours. Y'all miss what I said. Let me make it a little plainer in here. Some of y'all are in a wilderness right now. Some of you are in a wilderness on your job. Some of you are in a wilderness in your place of employment. God said, I'm taking you through this wilderness to show you, watch this, that I can sustain you in the process. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to move you from making somebody else rich to getting your own. Is there anybody besides me who's sick and tired of making somebody else rich and you ready to get your own? Touch somebody beside you if they look like they're interested and say, neighbor, it's time for us to get our own. I may not make as much money as I made in corporate, but at least it'll be my own. Am I talking to anybody in here who's ready for your own? Open your mouth and shout, I'm ready for my own. They developed a dependence upon God. They developed a self-benefiting work ethic. But number three, and I'm almost done, I promise you, they were forced to deal with attitudes that prohibited their progression into promise. Let me say this again. They were forced to deal with attitudes that prohibited their progression into promise. All right, let me see if I can fix this for you. They had to depend on God for survival. Yet they had been in the wilderness, this generation, for 40 years. Every day, God was sending them manna, providing for them water, sending quail occasionally. God said, I'm going to give it to you, but you got to go get it for yourself. All right. I know you've been used to getting it for everybody else, but you got to get it for yourself. And then he says, I'm taking you through here. Watch this. I'm in the text. Because I want to force you to deal with attitudes that prohibit your progression into promise. There is a reason you've been here for 40 years. And not only have you been here for 40 years, but you have been, watch this, you have been in a cycle of recurring experiences. Oh, God. There is a reason you've been going in circles. And the reason is not because you're not anointed. The reason is not because I'm mad at you. The reason you have been going in circles is because you have an attitude that has married you to the wilderness experience. So you like having to depend on daily handouts. Woo, God. He said, but what I'm trying to get you to do is I'm trying to get you to turn and walk straight into a place, watch this, where it won't be daily handouts, but you will walk in perpetual manifested promise. Oh, God, 3 people just got it. Let me say it again. He said, even though I'm the one who's giving you the handouts, he says, I need you to understand that it was my original intent to be in partnership with you, not to just hand you stuff, but that you, watch this, would be like me. And even as I create, you create. Even as I make, you make. Even as I supply, you supply. How come y'all ain't shouting now? Because here is the truth of the matter. God does not want you in the in-between place of just waiting for him to meet your needs. He wants you in the perpetual place of saying, God, we partners, and you've done enough for me in my wilderness season that if you sit back and take a perpetual Sabbath, I'll get it myself. Oh, God, is there anybody in here who can see that God is trying to deliver you from some attitudes that have kept you beneath of what he wanted you to have? Oh, God, I'm looking at myself now. I see why I keep winding up in the same place. But God, I promise you that if you give me another chance, I'll change my mind. And if I change my mind, I'll change my life. So the next miracle I pray for won't be for me. The next miracle I'll pray for is somebody who doesn't realize how much power they have. Shout yes, Lord. I'm in the text now. Y'all give me 10 minutes, I'm done. I'm in the text now. For he says, listen, I need y'all to understand that everything that's happened is for your good. And I want you to remember me, that I'm the one who brought you through the wilderness. I love it. I brought you through it. I brought you through it. You're the reason that you're in it. But I brought you through it. I needed to teach y'all dependence upon me, because man don't live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of my mouth. Oh, God, somebody missed a good place to shout. That was it right there. You ain't living on what you have. You are living on what I've spoken over your life. Oh, God. And if what I've spoken over your life has not yet to be fulfilled, then you can start shouting in your wilderness, because the only reason you still here is because it ain't happened yet. Oh, God, I wish somebody touch your neighbor and say, neighbor, I'm getting ready to give God 15 seconds of praise, because Bishop just told me that the only reason I'm still alive is because there's a prophecy hanging over my head that ain't happened yet. There's something that God promised that ain't been fulfilled. So I'm praising now, not because I'm there, but because I'm still alive and I'm on my way. God, tell somebody else, I'm still alive and I'm on my way. He says that's why I brought you through all that. I'm bringing you into a good place. I'm doing all of that. And then here's the punchline. He begins to tell them it's going to happen. Somebody shout it, it's going to happen. Your herds are going to multiply. Your land is going to be fertile. God. Your prophecy is going to be fulfilled. Your enemies are going to have to back up. Oh, God. Your body's going to be healed. Your mind's going to be delivered. The curse is going to be reversed. The way is going to be made. The valley's going to be bought up. The mountain's going to be brought down. The rough place is going to be made smooth. The crooked place is going to be made straight. Throw your head back if you believe it and shout, it's going to happen. Here's what I want you to understand, and I'm done for real. I'm done for real. He says, I did all this so that you could remember that I have given you power to get wealth. The original rendering of the text does not say that I've given you power to get wealth. It says I've given you power to make wealth. Y'all gonna catch this in a minute. He says, you went through an oppressive system, a process of deliverance from psychological and mental bondage to show you, oh God, that I have given you. You didn't ask for it. You didn't have to purchase it. But I downloaded in your DNA. Power. Somebody ought to shout power. Power, or the ability to create wealth. Let me take you out of school for 1 minute and then we're going to come back to church. The Hebrew word for wealth is the word kail. Not khalil, but kail. C-H-A-Y-I-L. And look what it means. It means force. He says, I have given you the ability, oh God, to create or to release a force that will sustain you. And not only sustain you, but place you in a place where you will never be in bondage to anyone ever again. It is a force that cannot be harnessed.
It is a force that cannot be stopped. It is a force that cannot be downgraded. It is a force that no demonic, no diabolical, no devilish schemes or tactics will be able to thwart. It is a force. Somebody ought to shout, it's a force. It's a force that once you get it, wind can't blow it out. Rain can't snuff it out. I wish I had a witness. It is a force. Somebody ought to shout, a force. That negativity around you cannot stop it. It is a force that once you grab hold to this, you'll understand that if God be for you, it doesn't matter who's against you. I don't know who I'm talking to, but he says, I'm giving you power to create wealth. Somebody ought to shout wealth. Notice he did not say riches, because riches are material and tangible, but wealth is a state of mind. Wealth is a state of knowledge. So if I got wealth, riches will come. Okay, come here, Jesus, help me to teach it. Jesus says, don't y'all worry about stuff, because stuff ain't nothing for me to get to the people that I'm in covenant with. He says, seek ye first my kingdom and its righteousness. That's the wealth. Seek my kingdom, my rules, my rudiments, my thoughts, my ways, and its righteousness. Your place in my plan. He said, and if you get that, all these other things shall be added unto you. I don't know who I'm talking to in here today, but the reason the devil has been messing with you so much is because he does not want you to realize who you are and who you are in the plan of God. But if you ever get in your mind that I am an heir of God and join heir with Jesus Christ, you ain't tied to stuff. Watch this. And so you can be broker than Job's turkey. But God said, if you got a mindset of wealth, whatever you lose, you'll get it back. Come here, Job, what's your story? I lost everything and everybody I had, but I knew who I was, and I held on, and I hung on in there until my change came. What happened when your change came, Job? I didn't just get it back. I got 7 times more than I ever had. Now, don't fool me, but who in here knows you're a son or a daughter of God? Who in here knows that the seed of righteousness in you? They told you were the descendants of slaves. Now you came through slaves, but you are a descendant of the Most High God. You are an offspring of the divine nature of God. I wish you grab your neighbor, say, neighbor, I am God's child. I am an heir. What God says is mine is mine. Now I'm getting ready to break the chains and the shackles of oppression. I'm getting ready to see my worth, to see my value, and I'm getting ready to experience all that God has for me. Shout yes. He said, I'm giving you power to get wealth, to create it. Watch this moment, I'm done. Watch this. For the express purpose of establishing my covenant in the earth. Are y'all still following me? I didn't give you power to create wealth to make other people rich. I gave you power to create wealth that my covenant might be established in the earth. Now I'm almost done. Watch this. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it, Nita. Here's what he says. I've given you ability to create a force. Watch this. To release a force that's in you to create wealth that my covenant agreement. It's even more than a contract rule could, because a contract is something that two people sign. God said, I'm going to go past contract and I'm going to go to covenant, where I swear that if you'll just walk with me and follow my plan for your life, everything I promised you is going to manifest. I asked God, I said, God, why do you have me focusing? I'm just teaching. Why do you have me focusing on covenant? He said, well, Kevin, before Moses, how many covenants were there? I said, God, there were 4. He said, name them. I said, the first covenant was the covenant with Adam. He said, what was the covenant, son? I said, the covenant that you made with Adam was the covenant of supply. You placed him in the middle of a garden and said, all this is at your disposal. All right. I said, okay, God. Second one is the covenant you made with Noah. I said, okay. He said, son, what's the covenant with Noah? I said, well, you promised Noah that you would never destroy the earth in the way that you had in the flood. I said, God, you got to help me with this. He said, all right, I'm going to help. He said, what I promised Noah was, you'll never have to go through that again. Where's my church? Whatever you went through to get your mind repaired and prepared, if it works, you'll never have to go through that again. All right. Maybe there's nobody in here besides me who had to go through some stuff that almost made you lose your mind in order to get you to change your mind. But if I got at least 5 folk in here who've ever been through something that almost made you want to check out of here, and it made you change your mind, I wish you'd give God about 15 seconds of praise, because God told me to tell you that you ain't gonna never have to go through that. Touch your neighbor, say, neighbor, it ain't none of your business what my that is, but God told me I ain't gonna ever have to go through that again. Now, whatever your that is, take about 15 seconds and give God praise. Whatever it is that almost killed you, whatever it is that left you broke, busted, and disgusted, whatever it is that made you almost lose it, give God praise, because you ain't got to go through that. I said, all right, Lord. I'm almost done. I said, okay, God. Well, the third covenant is the covenant you made with Abraham. He said, yeah, you're doing good, Kevin. You're 3 for 3. He said, but what does that covenant say? I said, the covenant says that if you leave your country, leave your kindred, leave your father's house, leave systems to a land that I show you, I'm going to bless you. He said, I'm going to give you half for that answer. He said, because that's the promise. That ain't the covenant. He said, the covenant, son, is that I was going to give Abraham his own seed that will perpetuate generational wealth. God have mercy. Y'all miss what I said. He said, I'm going to bless God. If you get your mind right, and if you get free from the systems that you are used to operating in, he said, I'm going to bless you and everybody in your bloodline after you. All right, I don't know if I got about 15 people in here who can shout about the fact that God is getting ready to release blessings for you and your whole bloodline. You're the last one that's going to live paycheck to paycheck. You're the last one who's going to have to go to a job that you hate. You're the last one who's going to have to treat it like dirt in order just to get a paycheck. Am I talking to anybody in here who can shout about generational wealth? Shout yes, Lord. I ain't going to be able to finish my message. I said, but God, you said there were four. He said, there are four. Think, son. I said, all right. Adam, Noah, Abraham. He said, yeah. But the fourth one, watch this, came after Abraham or after the time of bondage. I said, all right, God. I get it. I said, it's the covenant that you made with David. He said, yep. So I promised that I was going to supply Adam. He said, I promised that I was going to sustain Noah and his generations. I promised that I was going to give generational wealth to Abraham and his seed. He said, but I promised David, and I almost shouted off this, y'all, and I'm done, the right of the expression of sovereignty through those that he's in covenant with. I said, what do you mean, God? He said, remember what I told David? I told David that as long as the earth remains, he would always have a seed to sit on the throne of Israel. Okay, all right. Can I borrow your mind for a minute? Please take Israel out of the context of just the biological seed of Abraham. First of all, can I teach this? All right. First of all, I might get in trouble for this, but who you calling Jews according to the scripture may not even really be Jews. Paul says, not all who are Israel are of Israel. God have mercy. How much deeper y'all want me to go? Since we teaching, I got my real church now. I ain't concerned with numbers no more. I got my real church. Let me ask you this question. How in the world are you going to have a religion birthed in the Middle East, which is really, watch this, a division of what we call Africa, and the practitioners don't look like nobody from the Muntubu tribe? Oh God, I'm gonna finish, but maybe we're gonna start having some week sessions where we're gonna do some real in-depth stuff. But please understand, y'all, that some things were taken from you to try to make you think that you were not who God says you were. I wish I had a witness. I'm going to talk in here whether y'all want me to or not. So not all who say they are Israel are of Israel. As a matter of fact, some say they are the synagogue of God, but are actually of the synagogue of Satan. All right. Since y'all get, tell me one thing that was not stolen from you culturally. That is, watch this, the measuring stick of the modern world. Your worship was stolen. Stolen and now commercialized and given back to you as if you were a savage. Your music stolen. Oh, God have mercy. Your mathematics stolen. So when you talk about Israel, you ain't just talking about somebody whose last name is Steen. Stein.